Hey, my name is Margaret Stringer, and I'm going to tell you about some good friends of mine in Irian Jaya. This would be Pemar and Turbis. Turbis was the most powerful witch doctor in the village of Senggo. Everybody was afraid of Turbis because they felt that he could go to sleep in his house, and while he's sleeping, he could turn himself into a poisonous snake or into a wild boar. And people want to put a curse on somebody, he could turn himself into one of these animals. When that person would go out into the jungle to get food or whatever, then that snake would bite them or the boar would attack them. But Turbis would still be asleep in his house. And so they feared him. He was very much feared. Well, Pemar became my very good friend. Pemar was the first lady at Senggo to accept Christ. She was my first convert. And people would say, your friend is sick. I knew they meant Pemar. I started a literacy class, and Pemar came to it. She had never held a pencil in her hand. She had never had a book in her hand. So she came to the literacy class. And she went home that afternoon clutching her nice, pretty little book. And when she got home, Turbis, for some reason or other, was very angry. Apparently, they thought that she was bringing a book home which she can't read, and so he beat her up with a stick of firewood. The people came to my house and says, come down to the village because your friend is sick because Turbis had beaten her up because she came to your class. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to go confront the witch doctor. And I prayed, of course. We got ready to go down to the village to confront the witch doctor. Well, I got there, the people were gathered around out in front of his house. The people in the village were out there gathered, and as I came up, they said, are you going to go talk to Turbis? And I said, very bravely, like, yeah, I'm going to talk to Turbis. They didn't know I was shaking on the inside, but I was pretending like I was, no problem, I can talk to Turbis. So I went in the house, and he was sitting on the floor fixing his sago. They don't have furniture or anything like that in their little huts, and so they're all sitting on the floor. And Turbis was sitting on the floor cooking his sago, which is their staple food. And Pemar was sitting over there. He had beaten her quite badly and almost broken her arm with a stick of firewood. And I started to talk to Turbis and told him I felt really bad because he had beaten up my friend because she came to my class, and I felt responsible for it. And he wouldn't even look up, wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't even acknowledge my presence. And after I talked for a while and realized I was getting nowhere with him, I checked Pemar to be sure she was all right. And then I thought, well, I may as well leave because Turbis isn't going to talk to me. And I stood up to leave, and Turbis says, Nona. That's what they called me, was Nona. And I turned around, and he handed me some of his sago. Fortunately, I knew the culture. If you offended somebody and you want to apologize, the way you apologize is give them some food to eat. If they reject the food, it means they did not accept your apology. If they take the food, then it means that they did accept your apology. So when he offered me the food, I turned around and came back in, sat down on the floor. He gave me some sago, and I ate the sago. And then he says, I'm sorry I beat my wife. And I'm thinking, well, you apologize to her. She's the one you beat, not me. But he apologized to me because he beat his wife. And I started to leave and went out the door, and all the people were standing out in front of his house, and they were all very anxious to know, did you eat sago with Turbis? Did you eat sago with Turbis? I said, yes, I did. Well, not too a couple of years after that, I had the privilege of leading Turbis to the Lord. And I went back for a visit several years ago, and Pemar had died before I came home. But when I went back to visit, Turbis came up part way up the path to tell me that he was too sick to come out to the airstrip. And I told him, well, let me put my things down and I'll come down to visit you. So I went down to his house, and he was really indeed very ill. And Turbis died that night. Now, when they die, they don't embalm, of course, and they bury them the same day. So you just sit with the people all day while they're mourning, and some are rolling in the mud, and they're crying and mourn all day long. And then they bury the body that afternoon. So I was sitting down with the people as they were mourning, and I was thinking, I remember when Turbis was the most feared man in this village. And I also remember when he died, nobody was afraid of Turbis, all because of God's grace. He saved Turbis, and the most feared witch doctor is now with the Lord.